What's up, everybody? So during the UFC 326 broadcast, we finally got the White House card announced, UFC Freedom 250. And my initial reaction is, I think that this is a good card. And I like the title fights. I think that they are action-packed. Now, when I say that I like the title fights, I think that they are going to be very entertaining. But Topuria and Gaethje, I have been very vocal about how I do not like that matchup whatsoever. But we'll discuss that when we get to it. But from top to bottom, man, I think that this is a good card for what the UFC has to offer nowadays. But the reality is, Dana White, once again, built this thing up so much that to me it feels like this is a bit disappointing. It just does. It just does. And it sounds like there were some things going on behind the scenes, right? Dana White's like, Jon Jones wasn't going to have anything to do with the White House card or whatever he was saying. And I'm not sure that I buy into all that, right? And then apparently a fight fell off the card. And so it sounds like there were some disasters and some fires going on behind the scenes that they were trying to put out. They were trying to contain. They were trying to fix. And so this is the card that we get. Now, I want to be very clear that I think all of these fights are very action-packed, right? And then getting Ilia, Topuria, and Alex Pereira on the same card, I mean, those are two of the biggest stars in the sport, right? So having, in my opinion, the two most exciting strikers on the same card is absolutely amazing. And their matchups, I mean, Topuria and Gaethje, it's a banger. It's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be a fun fight on the feet, right? And then Pereira and Gane, that is one of the most aesthetically pleasing, striking battles that we have ever seen in the history of the sport. The high-level kickboxing of Poatan Pereira versus the slick, fast heavyweight and Ciryl Gane with the extensive, striking background as well. I cannot wait for that fight, man. That is my favorite fight on this card. Pereira and Gane. Right, so we're going to break down all these fights. I'm going to give you my early predictions. And O'Malley versus Zahabi, I mean, we got to discuss it, man. I don't really understand some of the matchmaking, but like I said, they're all fun fights, which I guess at the end of all of this, that is what is most important, I guess, is having fights that are going to be bangers, they're going to deliver. And Nickal versus Kyle Daukaus, they're trying to give Bo a little bit of a layup, but Daukaus, man, he's not necessarily a layup these days, right? Ruffy versus Chandler, we'll have some fun talking about that. And then Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia. That actually, I mean, Gane and Pereira is my favorite fight on the card, but Lopes and Garcia, that is a banger, man. Two heavy hitters in the featherweight division, two dudes that are must-see TV every single time. So let's hop into this, man. Let's talk about, here's what I would have done. So obviously I know that it was a 6-fight card, maybe a 7-fight card, kind of back and forth, right? But when this really was kind of being rumored that this was all going down at the White House, it was like, well, we didn't necessarily know how many fights we were going to be getting. So this is what I would have done. Again, a little bit of this is maybe, not exactly realistic considering that there are 6 fights on this card. But this is kind of what I had going on in my head, right? I really did think that there was a possibility we were going to get Jones versus Pereira, but I wasn't counting on Jon Jones coming back. We know him in the UFC and the negotiations, Jon talking about his hip and all those different things. So I wasn't sure how realistic it was that he was going to come back. But this is kind of what I was thinking would be just an amazing White House card. Something special. The UFC saying it's going to be one of the greatest cards or the greatest card of all time. You know how Dana White is, just like UFC 300. Building the thing up, and 300 was really good, but it just feels like the way that Dana builds it up, man, it ultimately ends up, 300 was really good, and this card is really good, but it just ends up being a little bit disappointing by the way that it was built up by Dana, and that's something he continues to do, man. But this is kind of what I was thinking, right? And please tell me that this isn't unrealistic. This is realistic. Poatan versus Gane, I mean, I absolutely love the fight, man. It's kind of crazy because when Alex first came into the UFC, I was saying that one day, hopefully we could see this dude at heavyweight, and the style matchup that I would love is Alex versus Gane. So I guess I manifested this. We manifested this. Like literally, this was a fight when I first started my channel. I was like dreaming about this fight, man. Now again, it kind of stinks in a way because Ciryl Gane is being rewarded with yet again another title fight. And after he gouged Tom Aspinall in the eyeballs and that whole debacle at UFC 321. So I kind of can't stand that Gane is being rewarded with this. But by the same token, Ciryl Gane is a super entertaining fighter to watch. And him and Pereira together, it is striker's delight. It's a high-level kickboxing fight. And Chimaev versus Strickland, right? Strickland's American. He's a massive star. Khamzat Chimaev is a huge star. They got beef. I mean, this to me is one of the biggest fights that the UFC can possibly put on right now, if not the biggest. Chimaev versus Strickland. The bad blood, the beef, and I get it. It's at the White House, and, they're going to be saying a bunch of stuff and going after each other. And so, I think the UFC was probably taking some of that into consideration, right? Things getting a little bit too dark, a little bit too wild between the two with the trash talk. But I also feel like the UFC is trying to reserve that fight for another card. I do think that is the fight that happens next either way. But to me, this is a stacked card, man. Could you imagine if they did this? Topuria versus Aiemann. We know Aiemann isn't going to get the next title shot. I'm just maybe a little bit of fantasy matchmaking here a little bit, man. But these three fights right here, right when we were talking about there's going to be multiple title fights, and I know that there's still 2 title fights on the card, but for an interim belt between Pereira and Gane, I feel like it's still great, but it still takes a little bit of the steam off of it as well. And I don't think that you should have stripped Aspinall, so it's kind of a weird situation altogether there. But you can't tell me that this would have not have went nuts, man. This would have went absolutely crazy. 3 incredibly high-level fights. They all would have had fun build-ups. Not so much maybe Poatan and Gane. I feel like it would be respectful there. But Strickland and Hamzat, that would have been mayhem. Right, and then Topuria and Aiemann, mayhem as well. So I feel like this, to me, is kind of what I had in my head. And obviously, I had a very good feeling that this is not necessarily what we were ultimately going to get. And here's what I would have done. 5 fun style clashes under those 3 title fights. O'Malley versus Sandhagen. Right, they're doing O'Malley versus Aiemann Zahabi. And I'm happy for Zahabi because he's absolutely been balling. He's been showing up, putting on these good performances, taking out some of the bigger names in the bantamweight division. But we had O'Malley and Sandhagen right at the tips of our fingers, man. Both are American, and how amazing of a fight that is, right? The 2 long, rangy guys in this weight class, they're very good strikers, right? Sandhagen has a slick ground game as well. This is the fight, man. This is the fight that fans have been wanting to see for so long. O'Malley versus Sandhagen. We could have done this at the White House. Why didn't the UFC put this together? And I feel like a lot of it is they wanted a more favorable matchup for O'Malley to get the W, right? And then we're going to talk about what I think they're trying to set up there. Diego Lopes and Steve Garcia, that is a fight that's actually on the card. That is a banger. That's a great matchup. I love that fight. Right, and then Mauricio Ruffy versus Michael Chandler. I like the fight, man. I think it's a way to build Ruffy. Chandler wanted to be on the White House card, and be careful what you ask for, dog, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then Derek Lewis versus Tai Tuivasa. Well, why would you put this on the card, man? But it's a rematch. And Derek Lewis should be able to go out there and KO Tai Tuivasa in a rematch. And Derek Lewis, American man, have him go out there, get the crazy KO, the celebration, all that kind of stuff. That would be fun. That'd be a big moment for Derek Lewis, man, because I feel like he's close to retiring. Tuivasa probably the same thing. Both guys are kind of washed, but I feel like Tuivasa is far more washed than Derek Lewis. And I think Derek could have gotten a KO at the White House. That would have been great. And then Sean Brady versus Colby Covington, right? Both guys have really good grappling. It would probably play out on the feet and end up being a pretty good back and forth. I feel like that would have been a good fight, right? Colby is somehow still in the welterweight rankings, right? Now, I mean, I like Bo Nickal. At the end of the day, I think he's a good fighter that has a ton of potential, but he's being hyped up so much, man. And the UFC keeps giving him all of these massive opportunities, and I think it's a little bit ridiculous. And I get it, he's American, and they're trying to build him up, and his wrestling background at Penn State, and he had a great bounce back performance against Adolfo Vieira, and I think Bo has a ton of potential, and I think he's getting better and better, but I mean, Brady and Covington, to me, that is a much better fight than Bo Nickal and Kyle Daukaus. And I know there were rumblings of maybe Bo Nickal versus Colby Covington, but it sounds like Covington ducked that fight, which isn't surprising whatsoever. Again, kind of just hearing some rumblings on that. But this is what I would have done, man. You can't tell me. I mean, if we got this to me blows us all away. Doesn't this blow us all away? Right? This blows us out of the water, man. Ilia versus Aiemann, MMA at the highest level, man. That is the fight to make at lightweight. But it doesn't sound like Aimann's getting a title shot anytime soon. Right? Pereira Gane, huge. Strickland, Hamzat, huge. I don't know, man. This would have been whoa. And I feel like everyone would have been going nuts over this. But again, the card is still very good. It's still a good card. It's not a bad card. It's just the fact that, once again, Dana White kind of overpromised. And in a way, this feels like under-delivering. But if you look at the realistic landscape of the UFC, they're putting 2 of the biggest stars on the card in Topuria and Pereira, and who are also probably, I would say, the 2 best strikers in the sport. So from that angle, I do think that this is a good card. But again, the overpromising then makes it feel a little bit disappointing. Now, let's get into the breakdowns. So we'll start with the main event here. Guys, if you've been following my channel, I have been very adamant about the fact that I don't want to see this fight. I don't want to see this fight. Now, when I say I don't want to see this fight, do I think that it is an entertaining matchup? Of course I think it's entertaining. Of course I think it's entertaining. Justin Gaethje is never in a boring fight, and either is Ilia Topuria. So it is going to be all gas, no brakes, a slugging back and forth striking battle. And I love it. This is a BMF type of fight. You got two dudes that are going to come in here and they are going to look to knock each other out. And I love that. And it's a perfect main event, right? Gaethje's American. He just won the interim title. And we heard the UFC, they're trying to have the American, probably in the main event of the White House card, which I get, right? So Gaethje beat the brakes off of Pimblett, wins the interim belt. And I feel like if Gaethje didn't win that fight, this would have been Ilia versus Paddy. And I feel like maybe that was the long-term goal that the UFC was shooting for. And Gaethje ruined the plans, just like he said, and here he is against Ilia. It's a fight. Anything can happen. That I will give you. Justin Gaethje is going to get folded like a lawn chair in the center of the octagon at the White House by Ilia Topuria. This is going to be a sad thing to watch, man. It just is. And Justin Gaethje is part of that OG group, man. The guys that have been around for forever. Holloway, Oliveira, Poirier, Diaz. Like that group of guys. Gaethje he's one of those dudes, man. He's been around for forever. Every single fight he is in, he's very entertaining. He leaves far too many openings. He's way too sloppy. He's way too reckless. Dips his head all over the place. Dips, ducks. He is going to get flatlined by Ilia, man. It's going to be a brutal KO. So from that angle, it's going to be exciting, right? Gaethje's going to be out there ducking his head, slugging these big winging shots. The Gaethje that fought Paddy Pimblett, I think was one of the sloppier versions that we've seen of Justin throughout his career. Now, I want to be clear that I do believe that some of that was the fact that Gaethje had zero respect for Paddy's striking whatsoever. Right? And it was still a good performance by Gaethje to go out there and be able to do that to Paddy. But again, this is a very different stylistic matchup. We're talking about Ilia Topuria, who to me, him and Alex Pereira are the two most devastating power punchers that we have seen in the history of the sport pound for pound. Ilia is an elite boxer. What does Justin Gaethje do well? It's his striking. Is he a better boxer than Ilia? Not even close. Is he a better kicker? I mean, you could make an argument that maybe he has better kicks, but Ilia's calf kick is heavily underrated. And I think he's going to utilize it in this fight to make, Justin even more of a sitting duck, man. And this just comes down to me of Ilia is going to knock him out, but how quickly is it going to happen? Because if Gaethje comes out and looks for a car crash and looks to do that kind of deal, he's getting slept early in one of the first exchanges that they're going to have. But if he comes out there more patient, like we saw in the BMF fight against, Dustin Poirier, right, where they fought for the BMF title, where he head kicked Dustin Poirier, we saw him a lot more patient, reserved, kind of on the back foot, because the boxing of Dustin, it gave Gaethje a ton of problems. It did in the first fight, right? It was the leg kicks of Gaethje that were really helping him out until Poirier was able to get the stoppage. And then in the second fight, Poirier was having a lot of success with the boxing. Look at what Holloway was able to do to Gaethje. And I know styles make fights. Ilia Topuria is by far the best boxer that we have ever seen in MMA and the best that we have ever seen in the UFC, and it's not even close. His fundamentals, his technique is tight. Everything comes from where it's supposed to, and he throws heat-seeking missiles. And I can't stand up. People say, well, the durability of Justin Gaethje, man, his chin, he's so durable. It doesn't matter how well you eat a shot against Alex Pereira or Ilia Topuria. These guys, when they hit you, it is a problem. It doesn't matter how well you can take a shot, dude. Ilia literally is going, it's going to suck to see. It's going to suck to see, man. An OG and Gaethje taking on the new generation of fighter, a guy that went after Volkanovski, one of the greatest fighters of all time, the GOAT featherweight, one of the best strikers ever, and hunted him down and took him out. Beat his leg up, beat up the calf, slowed down his movement, marched him down along the octagon side, took him out with the hands. Brutal KO. Devastating. Goes out there and knocks out Max Holloway, the only person to do that. Right? It's just like, and then he goes out there and starches Charles Oliveira in the first round. Right? And how good is Ilia Topuria? Look what he was able to do to Charles. Charles's ground game was that much of a joke to Ilia that he just kind of shucked him off, put him in the crucifix, got back to his feet, and smoked him on the feet with a right hand. Like, this is just, Ilia is too meticulous of a preparer. He's one of the greatest fighters of all time. Skill for skill, he's still got work to do with the resume to be in those kinds of conversations. But skill for skill, him and Islam, to me, are the two most complete fighters and the two pound for pound best in the sport. I think you got Pereira up there, you got Hamzat, you got some other guys. But I'm saying Ilia and Islam, man, they feel like on a different level than the other guys in their divisions. That's the way it feels. And I think Ilia Topuria is going to fold Justin Gaethje in half, man. This is just going to be, it's going to be violent. So again, you're going to get the action. It's going to deliver. And Gaethje's going to go out there and give it his all. Like, Gaethje's not going to, come out here and, oh no, I'm so scared. Like, Gaethje's going to go out there and fight, which I respect and I appreciate. It's just the fact that it's a bad matchup for him. His defense isn't good. He dips and ducks his head all over the place. He's way too hittable. And again, Gaethje has power, but he doesn't have that one-hitter-quitter power, man. People act like Gaethje is this brutal KO artist. When's the last time he's gotten a proper, legit knockout? It's been a while. It's been a while, man. Like, it may be back till, off the top of my head, like the Venom fight kits. The Reebok fight kits. Right? Like Edson Barboza, James Vick. Like, when's the last time he's had a flush KO? Ilia Topuria's defense is so good. He's got that low center of gravity. The high guard keeps his chin tucked. Beautiful shoulder roll. His timing is perfect. His distance management. The jab will be a piston. Ripping and busting up the face of Gaethje, affecting the breathing, attacking the calf to slow him down, and it's just going to open up the boxing, and then they're just going to be heat-seeking missiles being thrown in Gaethje's direction, and one of them, probably a right hand, will catch him on the chin and brutally knock him out, and it's just going to, I don't know, man. Again, it's another name to add to Ilia's resume, but here we go again where people are going to say Ilia's taken out all the legends. When's he going to beat a guy in his prime? And by the way, beating Volkanovski the way he did is unbelievably impressive. Volk is clearly not washed like people want to say. He just went out there and beat the brakes off of Diego Lopes twice, who I think is the most dangerous featherweight on the roster in the featherweight division right now. Just went out there and did that to him. So Volk's clearly not washed. All that Max has been doing, he ain't washed either. People just continue to find excuses for why Ilia is beating these guys. And look how good Charles is. Look what he did to Gamrot. Look what he did to Holloway. That's just how good Ilia Topuria is, man. He's better than Justin Gaethje everywhere and better than him at literally everything. That's the reality. He's faster. He's more precise. He's got devastating power, man. He's gonna sleep Justin Gaethje, and it's gonna be tough to watch, man, because Gaethje's an OG, and I don't want to see that happen. So again, it's great for him. He's headlining the White House, big opportunity, and it is a fun fight in the sense that it's going to be all action. They're gonna go at each other. We're gonna get the back and forth striking, but maybe Gaethje's gonna land some leg kicks, which would be smart because Ilia's very bladed in that boxing-based stance, but Ilia is going to rip him apart, man. It's going to be a one-sided fight, and I think Ilia brutally knocks him out in the very first round. Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane. One of the best striking battles we've ever seen in the history of the UFC. Now, does Gane come into this and look to grapple? Possibly. He's theoretically the bigger man. He's the guy that has been established in the heavyweight division. Alex is coming up to heavyweight. But it is very clear that Alex, for a guy that was making middleweight, that was kind of a Mr. Slim Reaper, right? He was this slim, tall string bean, right? Especially back when I was watching him in Glory. And then he comes into the UFC, starts to put a little more size on, and it's like, how's he making 185? Then he goes up to 205, looks a little bit kind of lethargic, a little bit kind of like he's holding a little bit of extra blub. And then after a couple fights at light heavyweight, man, he started to fill out and become a lean and big light heavyweight. To now, we're looking at him going, how is he even making 205? So I'm not worried about the size of him moving up to heavyweight whatsoever. He looks like a heavyweight. And Alex, I've always said, man, dating back to when I started watching this guy in kickboxing, he has the ability to knock out anybody from middleweight to light heavyweight to heavyweight. It does not matter the weight class. His power is that legit. And I think he knocks out Ciryl Gane. I think it's going to take him a little bit of time to do it because I do think that Gane is a very high-level striker. He's a very high-level striker. He picks and pokes. He's got that pretty kickboxing style. He's got a pretty good gas tank, right? He can switch stances. His jab is really clean, right? And again, I know that Gane doesn't have like this, crazy one-hitter quitter power at heavyweight, but he trades that for this very methodical technical style. And I do think that he could potentially cause Alex a little bit of issues, especially early. If he's kind of fighting behind the jab, sticking and moving and grooving, he can maybe walk Alex into something. So I'm not ruling out that Ciryl Gane can't go out here and win the fight. Like, I think that this, to me, is closer than Gaethje versus Topuria, right? That'll say. But at the end of the day, to me, Alex Pereira is such a high IQ striker, man. He's such a high IQ fighter, and his takedown defense, people act like this dude's a sitting duck. Like he has no idea how to grapple. There's still people that have those narratives. Alex can defend takedowns very well. He's not the guy that got taken down by Izzy early in his career, or by Mihailidis or Bruno Silva. This is a dude that Ankalaev could not take down whatsoever. Right, and I know Jan Blachowicz was able to get to his back, put him in some trouble, but I don't think Gane's ground game, I know it's a little bit underrated, I will say that. I don't know that it's good enough to go out here and mix in the grappling and, trouble Alex in that realm. And again, if you come out here with a grapple-heavy game plan, if you're Gane and it doesn't work out and you get back to the feet and you're tired, right, from, having a grappling-heavy fight, which is not something Gane exactly does, and it kind of fatigues him, Now you're fatigued standing in front of Alex Pereira, you're getting knocked out. You're getting knocked out. But either way, I think we see a technical back and forth striking battle, and I favor Alex over anybody when it comes to that. If I have a guarantee that it's on the feet, the only guy that I felt like could trouble Alex in all aspects would be Magomed Ankalaev because of the speed, because he's a very technical striker. He's got good speed, and we saw the first fight, Ankalaev was able to outscore him, was able to put it together, and then Poaton's like, I'm hurt, I had this, I had that. I feel like that was pretty clear in the rematch when he went right after Ankalaev with no respect and absolutely it was a demolition, steamrolled him. Right? So if you could do that to a guy like Ankalaev, who's fast, has good boxing, right? I just feel like Ciryl Gane, for as slick as he is and as big as he is, man, I feel like Pereira, I mean, he got better leg kicks. He's going to be able to attack the lead leg of Gane, whether Gane's, southpaw or orthodox, but he's predominantly a southpaw, but we see him kind of bob around and switch it up a little bit from time to time. I think Alex is going to rip those calves apart, man. He throws those things with no telegraph. They're fast. They make you more of a stationary target. That'll slow down some of the movement of Gane. He'll jab to the body, right? Jab upstairs, kind of get Gane to overextend and then time that left hook right around it. And some of Alex's most, brutal KOs come against southpaws, right? If you watch the Jamal Hill fight, obviously that little step-in shovel hook, the way that he was able to catch him, right, against Ankalaev coming after him. I know Ankalaev switches stances a little bit, but the way he battered Ankalaev's legs, I think he's going to do that to Gane, man. I think he's going to try to take out his base, make him more of a stationary target, and go right after him. And I think it was before Pereira got to the UFC. It might have been LFA or one of the local pro promotions that he was on, or regional scene promotions. He knocked out a southpaw with a brutal left hook because that left hook against a southpaw kind of sneaks right around the shoulder to where you don't see it as well. So I think that Alex is going to catch him with a left hook at some point, man. He's going to be jabbing to the body, changing his levels, attacking the legs, front kicks up the gut, trying to drain Gane a little bit, and then boom, a left hook is going to come around. He's going to time a shot from Gane and be able to knock him out. So I'm going to Alex Pereira. I think that probably in the third round. I think it's going to take a little bit. He's going to have to get after Gane because Gane's got that cat and mouse style where he's very pretty and technical and kind of hard to get a hold of, man. Gane's a very good striker. He's a very high level striker, but at the end of the day, it's hard to pick against Alex in a striking-only battle. At least a guy like Ankalaev, it was the grappling threat to where I don't know that Gane has that kind of grappling threat. Even though Magomed's more of a striker, not really a grappler, I don't know that Gane has this crazy wrestling threat that's really going to be able to trouble Alex. Oh, the size. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think Alex can find a way to get the knockout. I favor Peloton here. Sean O'Malley, Aiemann Zahabi. I mean, Sean O'Malley should win this fight all day long, and I think he will. Look, Aiemann Zahabi's got that funky kind of moving forward, rolling around Philly shell, right? And I like Aiemann Zahabi, man. He's a nice guy. He's a cool dude. And he's someone that's just been underrated for basically his entire career. And I'm happy that he's getting this opportunity, right? I'm a big fan of his brother, Faraz. I think he's an amazing coach. They got a great camp up there. And, I'd like to see Aiemann Zahabi win this fight, actually. But it's just tough to pick him here. It's tough to pick him here because he doesn't have the greatest of output. He doesn't really have crazy power, and I don't think he has a ground game that's really going to be troubling to Sean whatsoever. So what do we have here? We have a Strikers Delight kickboxing fight. And in a fight here, I got to favor O'Malley to win this thing. And there might be a shot where he catches Aiemann Zahabi and knocks him out. But we've seen that Aiemann Zahabi's pretty defensively responsible. We saw Aldo land some shots. We've seen him tagged. We've seen him clipped a little bit. But I feel like this is going to be one of those fights where Aimann's going to be moving forward, trying to press the Ariel Helwani, man. This dude looks doesn't he look like Ariel Helwani? I mean, that gets me every time, man. It looks like Ariel Helwani. But, for real, man, Zahabi's going to move forward. He's going to push the pace, try to get his boxing going, but O'Malley's just way faster. He's way faster. And I know people are going to say, well, look at the Song fight. O'Malley, he didn't really open up enough. A lot of that, to me, was O'Malley was in a must-win situation. I feel like O'Malley was fighting very cautious in that fight. He was basically just trying to skate by doing almost the bare minimum and mitigating the risk because Song Yadong is very dangerous. He's more dangerous than Zahabi. He's got a better ground game. He's got more power, but I would say that Zahabi's a little bit more methodical on the feet, and this to me just feels like a tailor-made matchup for Sean to go out there and kind of put on a striking show, right? He's got better boxing. He's got the faster hands. He switches stances really well. His kicking game is nasty. The front kicks, the creativity. He's got a good gas tank. I feel like Sean O'Malley wins a unanimous decision here. I feel like it's going to be a pretty one-sided fight. I can see Zahabi maybe having some moments as the fight plays out, especially if he can put a ton of pressure on O'Malley and, try to wear on his gas tank a little bit. But you got to favor Sean O'Malley here, I think, right? His speed, his versatility. I think you see an O'Malley that opens up a lot more in this fight, not really respecting the power coming back his way like what a Song Yadong provided. So tailor-made matchup to me for Sean O'Malley. Happy that Zahabi is getting this kind of opportunity. This is a big moment for him and something that I feel like he has earned. He's cut his teeth in the UFC. He's been around for a while. But having said all that, I got to pick with my brain, and early thoughts say that Sean O'Malley is going to make it look pretty easy against Aiemann Zahabi. I think he's just better than Zahabi everywhere and faster. Mauricio Ruffy versus Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler, we all know, had been just begging to basically be on the White House card. And he wanted to fight Conor McGregor, and Chandler for the longest time thought that that is what he was going to get. And the UFC said, now we got other plans. That ship has sailed. We're not going to give you Conor, but what we can do for you, Chandler, is we could give you the guy that fights like a prime McGregor, but is actually in the prime of his career, and in my opinion, might be even more dangerous than what a prime McGregor was. Now, when I say more dangerous, we know that Conor back in the day, a prime Conor, I mean, the movement, the fluidity, the straight left hand down the pipe, Conor was, he was special, man. But to me, Mauricio Ruffy, while he might not be that supreme, accurate, precise hitter that McGregor was at that time, I believe that Mauricio Ruffy is more dynamic than that Conor. And it's not to, necessarily compare Ruffy to Conor, but we know the comparisons because of the way Mauricio moves. It's very, the way the Ruffy moves. Ruffy moves going together just kind of messes you up. The way that Ruffy moves, it's very much like a prime McGregor, right? The karate, taekwondo-like stance, very loose, very long and bladed. I think Ruffy he's going to beat up on Chandler, man. I think he's going to knock him out within 2 rounds. Listen, I know that Ruffy got checked against Benoit Saint-Denis, and he showed that he has some issues with the takedown defense. But I feel like Ruffy working with Alexander Volkanovski is just one of those things that's going to take his game to the next level. And I know that Michael Chandler's got good wrestling. He doesn't have a good submission game. He's just, so what's he going to do? Is he going to take down Ruffy and land some ground and pound and control him for 15 minutes? I don't see that happening. And one of the reasons that Chandler is not a smart fighter. The way he fights in there, he doesn't utilize his best asset, which should be, he's got dynamite in his hands, but he overthrows. He leaves far too many openings, man. And Ruffy is a precise striker. He's a counterpuncher, man. He's got great offense as well. He's not afraid to go first. He'll pull you into that pull counter, right? I feel like that's what's going to end up catching Chandler. He's got nasty calf kicks. He's very creative. His jab is nasty. He's got that Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, no-look left hook, man. His defense is clean, right? And I feel like his takedown defense is going to be much better. And Saint-Denis has a submission threat, right? And I feel like Saint-Denis would beat Chandler. I feel like he would submit him. Right, so to me, it's a little bit of a different stylistic matchup, and Chandler doesn't fight smart in there, man. He doesn't really use his wrestling, and when he does, a lot of the reason I feel like he doesn't use it is he gasses himself out. He makes himself very tired, right? So I could see him looking to grapple a little bit, but then it's at the White House. He's trying to put on a show, and, Chandler has the power to be able to knock anybody out really in this weight class, but the reality is outside of knocking out Hooker and then the front kick against Tony Ferguson, like Chandler he's been in some fun fights, but I don't know, man. He's not the cream of the crop at the top of the lightweight division. And I think that Chandler's been getting the break speed off of him. I feel like that's what's going to happen here. I think Mauricio Ruffy beats the brakes off of Michael Chandler, tags him on the feet. Chandler's going to be panic shooting. Ruffy might get taken down. Chandler's got some decent ground and pound, but I just don't really see any paths to victory. Chandler's not going to be able to control him for 15 minutes. That would be his path to victory, right? Or maybe landing a big shot on the feet. He doesn't have a dangerous submission threat. He fatigues pretty quickly when he grapples. I think Mauricio Ruffy all day long. I think Ruffy makes it look easy. And this is about getting Chandler on the White House card while also building Ruffy in the process. I think it's an easy W for Mauricio. Kyle Daukaus versus Bo Nickal. So I think Daukaus was supposed to fight Vicente Luque on the Miami card, right? And now he's fighting Bo Nickal. And I thought we were going to get Bo Nickal versus Covington, which that would have been interesting because of the trash talk, the build-up. Bo Nickal should win this fight. He should win this fight. And his striking looked really good against Adolfo Vieira, but again, that's Adolfo Vieira who's not very dangerous. I know Vieira's striking is okay, right? He's more of a jiu-jitsu guy. Bo Nickal destroyed him. He destroyed him, got the nasty head kick, right? I feel like Bo's made some good improvements on the feet. He's got the power advantage, I'd say here. His wrestling is good. I feel like it'll cancel out against Daukaus, but again, Daukaus has that RDR kind of frame, man. It's kind of like a knockoff RDR a little bit, right? That lanky build. And I could see Daukaus trying to take a similar game plan to what RDR was able to do. Get him in the clinch, batter the midsection, right? Anybody that's watching that tape, I feel like they're going to try to weaponize that against Bo Nickal. If they have the ability to do it, why not give it a shot? And we've seen Daukaus, what he was able to do to Michel Pereira, what he was able to do to GM3 since coming back into the UFC, back-to-back finishes. So Daukaus, to me, is a little bit of a different dude. Well, not a little bit. He's a very different dude, man, than the first time around in the UFC. So, I lean Bo Nickal to win this by a decision, but, man, I don't know. Bo Nickal likes to strike, and I feel like Daukaus' striking is all right. He could definitely hang with Bo Nickal. He may even have the advantage there. I feel like Bo might have the power advantage. Bo's definitely the better wrestler. But Daukaus' ground game, especially with the submission game, is actually pretty good. So I feel like this is a competitive fight, but I will lean Bo Nickal. I feel like the UFC is trying to give him a very favorable matchup here. And usually when the UFC foresees these favorite, matchup, they have like a game plan for these stylistic matchups to help force feed a win to a guy that they want to win. I feel like this is kind of one of those situations. So kind of crazy that Daukaus is getting this kind of opportunity, man. So big spotlight for him. If you could go out there and beat Bo Nickal, that'd be massive. But I favor Bo Nickal. I think he's more explosive on the feet. I don't think Daukaus will out-grapple him. I don't think he has the knees like RDR. And I think RDR at the end of the day is quite a bit better than Kyle Daukaus. So I'll lean Bo Nickal by decision. Last fight, which is the first fight on the card. Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia. This is a certified banger, man. This, to me, this is one of the best fights on the card for sure, and I love this matchup. And this is not necessarily something that I would think of, right? And people are going to say, well, Diego's fighting so far down the rankings. Diego Lopes got a completely undeserved title shot. And I know that he beat, Jean Silva with the spinning elbow, and that was very impressive. And that was a highlight reel. And then he got, thrown right back into a title shot. So you weren't able to beat Volkanovski either time. So I feel like you should fight somebody farther back in the rankings. And Steve Garcia has earned the opportunity to have a big fight like this. He's been out here knocking people out, putting on great performance after great performance. And the most recent one against David Onama was incredible. Absolutely destroyed him. And in this fight, I think that this is a slugfest on the feet, man. I feel like on the ground, Diego Lopes has an advantage, so maybe Diego will look to grapple. And if he does that, I feel like he could submit Steve Garcia. So if Diego grapples, I think that he has the edge there. I know Garcia's shown some pretty good takedown defense, but I feel like Diego's got a ground game that could possibly trouble Steve Garcia. And Diego kind of has that Charles Oliveira effect, where if you get clipped by him on the feet, he could just club and sub you with no problem. So Diego Lopes, just because he's losing to Alexander Volkanovski, the greatest featherweight of all time, Diego Lopes, man, is as dangerous as it gets. He's as dangerous as it gets, right? But I think on the feet right now, the momentum to me is on the side of Steve Garcia. So I will lean Diego Lopes here by a finish. I think he can get a club and sub. I think that he can rock Steve Garcia and then end up submitting him. But, man, I wouldn't rule it out of Steve Garcia being able to outscore Diego Lopes, and win a decision. And, if he could knock out Diego, how crazy would that be? A guy that has a granite chin at 145 who's, been a problem for basically everybody outside of Volk. Like, that would be a massive win for Steve Garcia if he could pull it off. And, if he could knock out Diego, that'd be nuts, man. That would be absolutely nuts. And I could see if he knocks out Diego, right, given the spotlight of this fight and the magnitude, like, if Garcia finishes Diego Lopes or puts on, like, some sort of masterclass, I could see the UFC possibly throwing him in there for a title shot very soon. So this is a big fight for Garcia, man. Big fight for him. He's looked great, but it's also a big step up in competition. And I'm not going to say it's a step down. Even though that Garcia is back in the rankings, this is still a very difficult fight for Diego, man. Garcia is a big featherweight as well as Diego. He's got that nasty southpaw striking, good hands, nasty power, good kicks as well, good movement. But Garcia, at the end of the day, he is a little bit hittable. So I'm going to favor Diego Lopes here. I think he can get a club and sub. I think he can rock Garcia in an exchange, be able to get to his back and find some sort of submission. So I'm going to have to think a little bit more on this one, do a little bit more tape study, but I'm leaning Diego Lopes to get the stoppage on this fight. This is a banger, man. So at the end of the day, man, I think that this is a good card. I think the UFC did a pretty good job on this, but you hear Dana White saying, we got the whiteboards, we're erasing all these fights and keeping this so secretive. And when you hear all of that, it's not to say that we have these unrealistic expectations, but when you're hearing those kinds of things, it feels like we're just going to get stuff out of left field, like Pereira versus Jones or McGregor coming back to fight Diaz or something crazy like that, And I know that stuff is not exactly the most realistic. It's kind of the trendy stuff, right? Because they're the big names and, the biggest names of all time, really. But the way that Dana was describing it, a lot like 300, those were the vibes that I feel like a lot of people were getting, including myself, for this card. But for me, this would have been like a loaded card. This, to me, is kind of what I was looking at for like a White House card in terms of it being loaded. I think that they did a pretty good job. But again, You know, having Pereira and Topuria on the same card is amazing. These are fun stylistic matchups. Each of these are going to be action-packed, I would imagine. So it's a good card, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's a disappointing-ass card, man, a little bit, considering how Dana was kind of building this up. But I'm excited, man. I think that these are all bangers. It's going to be a night full of action, so I'm excited to see how these fights play out. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please do me a favor, give it a like, let me know what you think down in the comments, and if you enjoy my content, if you could subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you next time.